And I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's like getting like Jacques Cousteau to clean your fish tank, bro. It's like, it's just crazy.
Hello and welcome to the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players. I'm your host, David Holloway, and I'm thrilled to be back for part 2 of our interview with Maurice Hayes. As I mentioned at the start of part 1, this was an amazing interview and nothing to do with the questions I asked. Just what Maurice imparts across these 2 parts is incredible. In this part, we really dig deep into a whole range of areas, including still part of his work with Prince, but we also move past that into his production and performance career and a whole bunch more, and including both actually train wreck stories are 2 of the top 10 in my view of we've had across the nearly 100 episodes. I hope you enjoy part 2, and I'll talk to you at the end of the show. So, I mean, what you're saying there too, that Prince was hands-on the whole time, so that was essentially his whole career. And I mean this in the most positive way. He I imagine, was an incredibly demanding band leader, and that showed in the quality of the performance. So you obviously managed to maintain a great relationship over a long period of time. What do you think the secret was?
Levity.
Okay.
For me, I believe a good dose of Prince loved comedy. And I screwed up a lot, man, as far as playing, like I made a lot of mistakes because, like I said, I didn't really learn the most proper way. And I think about it a lot. And I think like a lot of people would get fired for less than what I did. But I was so funny, man, and I kept them in stitches, and I was a good person to be around. I try to be very cool with everybody. Like, when the band's tense, I'm the one that takes the tension out, that kind of finds the funny thing and it kind of keeps that whole thing moving. And I think that was one of my greatest assets to my longevity, rather than my playing. I mean, I did cool, man. I'm not bashing my gift. I have a wonderful gift. I think so many people are much better, but that's wholly irrelevant. When you're in a situation, there's more things that you're doing than playing. Renato was one of the greatest keyboard players I think Prince ever had, but Prince and Renato would just fight, because it just clash, and they would just fall out, man. And Prince there was this love-hate relationship that would happen with it, and because they were both very strong.
Personalities.
And Renato was amazing, but Prince would be like so mad sometimes, like you just say stuff like, now I remember. Now he said, it's all coming back to me now. Like why you were gone for a while, it's all coming back. He would say stuff like that, and it's like, but my thing was, I just like, hey man, I'm just here to keep the peace, do my gig, and I get the job done, and get through. But I think a lot of that, my attitude and my personality buoyed me when my talent did not. And I always try to tell kids, you got to take a full approach. Understand the artist that you're working with and that you're dealing with, his personality and what his thing is. I'd studied Prince. I was told by my mentor what he would be like, and I took that information into account. And I did not, just toss it. And that was the key to my longevity, I believe.
And so I wanted to pick out a couple of highlights of that time in MPG. One that stands out for me all the way down in Australia was the Super Bowl halftime show in 2007. Do you actually have any recollections of that? Well, I know it was wet, but beyond that, what was that like?
It was crazy, man, because, we were in Vegas doing a residency, in Vegas for a while, like about 8 months or something like this. And that kind of came in the middle of it, The NFL people came to Prince's house in LA. And it was just, at that time, it was just myself, Josh and Cora and the twins, so it was just me, Josh and Cora and the band and Prince, 4 of us. These people showed up and Prince was, Prince is like, it's not like we're going to come and have a meeting. You're going to come and have a concert, That's everything is you get to have a concert. And then I'll talk after the concert and we'll talk then because he knows I'm going to kick ass in this show. And then we can talk because he's then in a much better position to do
That's right.
so. You just saw, and that's what happened. 4 of us got on the stage at his thing. We had the whole sound system in this house, in the pool house thing, or the viewing room, and blew these people away. They were like, "Oh my God, that's 4 people playing right now." All these samples, all of this stuff, guitar parts and fire and smoke and lights. It was just crazy. And then he went to the table like a pimp, sit down at the table like, now, what do we want to talk about here? He was like that, he was like, I just kicked your ass. And now, and they were like, well, Prince, we don't pay people to be on the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, you'll pay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, well. We don't. He said, they said, well, people do it for exposure. He said, exposure? He said, isn't that what kills you? Like when you're outside and you like get exposed? He said, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want exposure. It kills you, don't it? And I was sitting there going, this guy's a genius. I'm like, he's a freaking genius. And these people are talking about air time. Prince is like, isn't air free? Shouldn't air be everybody's free? And I was just like, oh my God. And so he killed them. And the next thing you know, we're going to do this thing in Florida. And it was incredible, man. I mean, we practiced for it. We went back to the studio and really worked out a really great show, man. I think one of the things that makes that show a number one in most polls that I've seen, we still maintain the number one position. And I think it's because of the approach Prince took to it. I mean, he was saying that he didn't want it to be this whole cavalcade of Prince songs. He said, a Super Bowl is composed of different people, different musical genres, and people all over the world. And he said he wanted to make the show like that. And so we had Creedence Clearwater, we, all around the Watchtower. We had Foo Fighters, all of this stuff, man, that was like something that everybody could take something from, and get something from in the show and enjoy a piece of it, and that's how the basis for how we came up with that and to do that. And that was great, man. And I think that's what made for a great show. Not to mention like stuff like, we had our keyboards out there, man. And I knew if it starts raining, we had endorsements, like Open Labs. I used to use these incredible computer software playing keyboards that you played virtual instruments at Open Labs, and they supplied me with these because I didn't want to kill my own stage computers that we were using in Vegas. They said, "Don't worry about it. We'll send you everything you need for the Super Bowl thing. We'll supply that." The cat came with it. It was like, don't worry, no worries about that. We even auctioned them off afterwards to make a wish, and just because once the rain got in them and we turned them off, they were fried. The water got in them, and then it was a wash. But that was the biggest concern. Is like, Prince's guitar. Man, Prince was very meticulous about the sound. So he's in the truck. We play, and he want to go listen to the mix and like, what's the guitar like? And I'm trying to tell these guys, like, don't let him get electrocuted. Like, because I've seen Prince arc one time where like this blue lightning bolt came out of the microphone, like on his.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, guys, I'm talking to the production people with the NFL, man. And they really I'd never seen that efficient of a situation in my career where they had a contingency plan for the contingency plan. Yeah. It's like, don't worry, he's not going to get shocked. Your stuff is going to have, because I'm like, it's going to be raining. We got plugs going into like these power strips. They had stuff to cover all of that up. No water's getting down in it. It was crazy, man. And I was just like, wow, they figured this shit out. They got stuff for everything, man. And when it really came down to it, they said, okay, it's going to rain. It's going to get wet. The stage is going to be slippery. Do you want to do the thing we shot on Friday? We did a full dress run through on Friday. They film it just like they would for Super Bowl Sunday. They said, if we can either take that, superimpose it with the crowd, and the crowd at home will see y'all playing, and the crowd and the people in the audience, all of that will be mixed together. Prince was like, no, we rock, we play. Yeah. And he said, can you make it rain harder? And they were like, okay. And the rest is history. I mean, it was like,
oh, it's amazing.
It was, he wasn't, I remember afterwards, he was kind of lamenting about the sound, and he wanted to go because the balance was like weird or whatever. But he knew he had made history, man. I mean, he played Purple Rain in the Rain at the Super Bowl, man. It's like,
Yeah.
it don't get no better than that, bro. I
No.
was like, dude, it was one of the greatest moments of my career, man, in
Yeah.
terms of just like, you did something and it was like cool,
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. No, amazing. And then there was another key moment, which is one that you would have preferred not to have done, and that's you MD'd the Prince tribute show after his very early passing. So tell us about the experience doing what would have been an incredibly hard time.
It was, man, I can't even tell you. At that point, I'd done some pretty tough things. I think I had really, done some big shows and some tough things, but nothing that when I did that, it was a whole nother level. It was a lot of wrangling about who's doing it and different things like that. And I really didn't have a clue as to something that huge, of me being the MD and trying to manage it. And thank God for Terry Lewis, man. Terry was a big mentor to me on that whole thing. I loved Jimmy Jam and Terry. Their advice is vital, and Terry was just a godsend in that whole situation when I was melting down, man, because it was like, Christina Aguilera, all of these few, John Mayer, all of these things were flying around. I'm trying to not only manage the band situation, but I'm trying to deal with these celebrities, and I'm trying to do with all of this stuff. Some things fell through the cracks, At the end of the day, once again, what saved me was my people and the band people. I remember having the prayer, bro, and just kind of saying, hey, God, I need you to let these guys do what they do. And that's what they did. They all came through for me, man. And it was a very heavy thing that we did. One of the cool things that I noticed was when I was in LA before coming out to do that, I went to this thing Marcus Miller was doing out at the Hollywood Bowl with the blaxploitation films. And he did a thing where they had an orchestra, and they would play all of the from the black films of the 70s and different films where they would put this, and they would have the artists come out and do those songs that did them like, back in the day, and it was incredible. They got to the part where they did Shoop, Whitney Houston, and Whitney had passed away at this point. They had her on the screen, and the orchestra is playing Shoop and all of this, and she's singing, and I said, that's how I'm going to do Prince, because I wanted to do Purple Rain, but I didn't want somebody else. I wanted Prince to sing it, and that gave me the idea to figure out how can I get Prince singing Purple Rain, and it's him on the big screen at the end of the night singing that song from a live version, and we're playing behind him. And my engineer at the time, Dave Isaac, and my guy Bo came with me to Minneapolis, and they managed to extract Prince's voice and from a live show, and put this video up, and we were able to make this thing happen at the very last minute. Man, it's the kind of stuff that it's either like a flip a coin, either it's going to work or it's not. And it just worked. There were mistakes made because, like I said, I was supposed to have Sinbad, the comedian, to kind of MC the show while I'm kind of like, he's doing the funnies while we're changing over people and sets and whatever. And I was supposed to just be kind of like, all right, everybody, we're going to, but now, because he got sick and couldn't make it, the promoter was like, well, Maurice, you can do it. Or
wow.
You can do it. And I'm like, so now, man, I'm the guy that's talking between everything.
Wow.
So I'm trying to do what I'm doing and still maintain all of these things that are happening behind the scenes. And it was crazy, man. And I just got put on the spot at the last minute. And the fact that it even turned out as good as it did, man, even though it was not perfect, it was such a great thing to see everybody, to have the guest people that we did have come out and participate, man. It was beautiful, man. President Obama sent a video message for us, Van Jones had arranged. And it was... It was just phenomenal, man. I mean, when I think about it, it's one of the greatest moments in my musical career, just to have the honor to be there to put something that big together and for it to come out successful, and 18,000 people within a few minutes and sold this thing out, man. And it was 5 hours in was a great night, man.
Absolutely.
It was bananas, and it was one of the greatest moments ever.
And I want to put a theory to you, Maurice, that I think it's a testament to Prince's life. There are not many bands, so you don't think of the E Street Band playing without Springsteen. You don't think of the Heartbreakers playing without Tom Petty, but it totally makes sense that MPG continued, and that's a testament to Prince and that you guys make sense. All right, it's different without Prince, but just tell us how you sort of transition to, okay, we're going to continue this as I suppose, a homage to what Prince had achieved.
What the general thought was, after we did the celebrate the tribute, and the response was so well received. I remember the next day, man, I was staying at a hotel in St. Paul, nearby where the venue was. And of course, I ran into a lot of fans who were also staying at the hotel. I bet that day I ran into about 10 people just in transit, and them, accolades about, the night before, I shook a lot of hands after the show. I went down in the front just to thank as many people as I could that came to the show and made it, and the thing that I kept getting repeatedly asked of me and said to me was, man, that was crazy. That like my feet were hurting, and it was so many great things, but you didn't play my favorite song. 10 people at least said that to me, that I didn't play their favorite song. And I said, there was 52 Prince songs in the course of that night. 52. We counted them.
It's huge.
And so what does that say? 10 people at least that I ran into said, you didn't play my favorite song. So just to curate a Prince show, and just it's like so much music. And when the outpouring of affection for what it was, our former manager Jill said that maybe we guys should like reformulate. Jill Willis, and that became the whole motivation behind keeping it going, is that we did get back together. We got these guys, and there was this music. What we needed to do was really, get the singer side of it, because the biggest thing is, of course, what is the NPG sans Prince? What is the situation like, without him, without this fearless band leader? And it was really a thing to pull off something where you have, Kip and Andre Simone and all of these different singers, and Mackenzie in the end. When we got Mackenzie, we really had to curate a lot of singers and a lot of people to just kind of get this thing. And it's difficult because, Prince has some extraordinarily big shoes to fill, and you can never do that. You can never be that, so the key was to find somebody and people who could interpret this music in their own way, but still do it justice to be able to be sung. Because there's people who love Prince so much. They love us as the band members. They love, Tommy. They love, all of the different, Tony and Sonny and just all of the different people who work with them. And you're just like, bro, I mean, if I were to go see Queen right now, that's still those dudes, man. And I mean, it's like those are the cats. And they're worthy of that. You got bro, that's heavy hitters. And so we have a bit of that, in that we were the guys who made this music with him in some cases, wrote this music with him in some cases, and played this music in all of the cases. And so that's what's the whole strength behind going and doing NPG. And some would be like, yeah, you guys shouldn't do it, but the great majority of people we came across enjoyed it and thought that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And to go kind of relive that music and everything. So that's what I appreciate.
Yeah. No, it makes sense totally. And so jumping away from Prince and NPG for a minute, you've had an incredible career both on stage and production-wise, and I know on your website you list some of the people you work with, and it's impossible to even cover part of them. But I'm just going to throw 3 or 4 names at you, Maurice, and just tell us your a recollection. Or so I'm going to start with. Let's go with Alicia Keys. Let's start with Alicia.
Yeah, it was crazy. I met Alicia was at Prince's house for one of these parties that he would have. And what was dope about these parties, man, is just like it was very intimate. Everything was like, Herbie Hancock, Joni Mitchell. They're like at the house, and they're like, so I'm sitting on the piano, and the keys, and Alicia's sitting next to me on the bench. We're sitting together, and she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, whatever. We just sitting there, and I'm just like, man, this is bananas, And what was dope about Alicia, at the beginning of her career, she came to Paisley when Prince was doing like the celebrations, and before she blew up, he had her come out just like he did with Norah Jones, and just like a lot of people, like the Alabama Shakes, just like a lot of people just come out, and he put them on at this thing, and so she came early on, and was same with Janelle Monáe, and like it's just like that became a thing, and to be at the house at Prince's house and sitting right next to Alicia Keys on basically on the piano stool while she's playing and just doing her thing. I'm just like, bro, heaven must be like this.
That's right.
It don't get no better than this. You know what I'm saying? So, and the same with Herbie Hancock. I
was about to ask about Herbie. Yeah, tell us about Herbie. Yeah.
Herbie, I love Alicia. She's new school. She was dope. But Herbie is like, that's my dude. Right, I followed like George Duke, Herbie, and Stevie, like were the trifecta of keyboard giant Chick Corea. They were like the giants to me of because we can go back to like Oscar Peterson and McCoy Tyner and like some of those cats. That's not even in my league. Them dudes is like, and Herbie isn't either. But Herbie was somebody I could relate to because Herbie had a career with Miles Davis, and he did jazz, he did like other stuff, but Herbie was electronic. That's the era that I was like in the Herbie in the 70s was like Herbie was going electronics and doing stuff like, Future Shock and like the other stuff that he was doing that, head with the Headhunters and the other kind of stuff. And it was incredible to me. And Herbie was playing in the same thing. I'm sitting on the stool as Herbie's doing his thing. And we got to be cool. And then when it got to a point where Herbie knew my name, it was just like when he would say, Maurice, and everything freezes after Herbie says your name, your name. It's because then you go, I don't know what he was talking about his car that Ford had given him at one of these environmentally friendly cars. The car is a blur. Him calling me like, Maurice, come look at my car. I got to show you this thing. And he takes and points to the tailpipe and says, look, it's water coming out. And I'm like, I don't care. It's Herbie Hancock saying Maurice is my name. And I'm
absolutely.
I'm good there, bro. You can put me in the ground now. You and Long. I'm good. Like whatever happens after this is like it's academic. It's Herbie.
That's right.
That was great because Herbie would come to Prince's house and he would bring Joni with him.
Yeah,
They
wow.
got in his little red Ferrari and they'd come up and they just hang out shooting. Joni would shoot pool while we over there playing. And I'm just like,
yeah,
that's like getting like Jacques Cousteau to clean your fish tank, bro. It's like, it's just crazy. Just that they're just hanging out, just doing stuff. You got Matthew McConaughey playing bongos. I mean, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's just like I'm sitting there just like eating my own hands, like, oh. So I'm just like, just taking it in, bro. I'm just like, it's euphoria, man. And it's
absolutely.
like, just anytime you have an opportunity, not only to like meet somebody like that, but to actually like watch him put his hands down on something, watch Stevie put his hands on something, and then just like stand there and watch it. It's like, bro, it's what dreams are made of,
And let's talk Stevie. We can't, given that we're a keyboard podcast. Yes, Stevie, what's your experience there?
One of the single most greatest moments in my life again. And I've had a lot of good ones, man, but it's hard to beat this, man, because when Stevie showed up for this tribute, And I had, run into Stevie prior, like at some Prince gigs and stuff. We played with Stevie at different points and stuff. So I'd already had played with Stevie at this point. But when he came this time, he came out and came to the rehearsal sound check rehearsal situation. And they kind of like set a seat out in the middle of the stage, me and Stevie, like 2 chairs. And he sat next to me, man. And man, it's crazy. He sat next to me and he said, and he told me that first, he said, I'm really distraught because, I'm so sad. He said, Prince, we would talk about all these things he wanted to do. And, he had just seen Michael Jackson buried some years earlier. And he played at Michael Jackson's tribute as well. I'll never forget. They won't know when I go. And he said, he said, Maurice, Maurice, what would you like for me to do? Which again, I'm like, this man is Stevie Wonder. And I said, man, Stevie, I said, you're Stevie Wonder. You can do whatever you want to do. We'll follow you. And he says, and tears are coming down his eyes. He put his hand on my arm and he was talking to me while his hand, and I'm looking at his hand and I'm like, man, this is Stevie Wonder, man. And he's weeping, man. It's like tears are coming down and he's sad. And I'm sad. I'm just sitting there, but I'm also overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, man, this is crazy. And this dude is telling me, and he's just like, he wanted to do so many things, and he's just cut down so early, like in life. And he said, and I said, well, Stevie, do whatever you want to do, man. We'll follow you, man, and whatever. And he says, well, I want to talk to the people. And I said, well, Stevie, talk to the people. And he said, I'll do a Donny Hathaway song. Someday we'll all be free, and then we'll go into some of my stuff. And that's what he did.
Great.
And I just was like, man, that was just. I've only had like 2 times where I looked at the hand of somebody that was on me. Like I looked at his hand on me, and I was just like, man, that's Stevie Wonder's hand. And the other guy was Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
When he came by and was telling Prince, we used to play one of his songs, The Long and Winding Road, and Elton would do it with us. And he came over at a party and he just said, Prince, I heard you're doing one of my songs with Elton and I'd love to get a copy. And Prince was like, yeah, sure, it's cool. And as he was walking by, I'm sitting here, and then Prince's girl was here, and then Prince, and he just kind of walking by. I mean, he's Paul, man. He's walking by, and he just kind of put his hand on my shoulder as he's going by, And I'm like, hey, that's a Beatle. That's you look around to see who see, that's a Beatle. That's a hand of a Beatle is right there. Don't wash your shoulder from now on, And it was like that. And that was bananas, man. It was just like those kind of moments for because, man, like I said, I don't never get full of myself, man. I consider myself one of the luckiest blokes in the history of mankind to like be able to be around all of my heroes, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I know Philip, I know Maurice White, all of these guys that I ended up meeting in my journey, man, because of my connection with Prince and a lot of stuff that I did on my own. And so for me, man, it's just like, it's just like I'm at Willy Wonka's in the chocolate factory, and I'm a fat kid. I'm in there with all this candy, and I'm just going to eat myself to death. It's like,
absolutely.
That's just the parallel to it to me, man. And it's just like, that was my whole career. Lenny Kravitz, and all of these cats that I love so much. And that, there were these influential people, and Diana Ross, and so many folks that I looked up to, that I was able to like sit with and talk to, and they tell me their stories, and they, they just, it just wasn't. It's been an incredible journey, man. And
sure has.
Recommend the music business for anyone who's interested.
Yes.
It's a wonderful craft to be a part of. I'll give you that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask you about one more before we get on to our standard questions. And a couple of episodes ago, we had someone on that had worked with Kanye West and testified to what a work ethic he has. I'm just interested in what your interaction with Kanye and what you did musically with him.
We did a show in 2011 in Sweden, and Kanye was there. And man, we were grooving, and we've had a lot of hip hop cats, coming, Common, Cool Mo D, a lot of great hip hoppers over the years that would come and jump in with Prince and do some stuff. And of course, Kanye was in the house. He was on the side waiting for his moment, man. And when I tell you, you can love or hate Kanye for his politics or for whatever it is, but he's a great hip hop rapper, doing what he does. And this dude came on the stage and torched it. He came in and jumped in and did his thing, man. I mean, it's like, once again, when you have cats at the top of their game that come and then, freestyle over a groove that we're doing. That's what makes the greats great to me, is because I remember Bono did the same thing. We had Bono come on the stage and do the cross. He didn't know the song. Prince stood behind him and told him the words as he was singing the song, man. And the Edge and Bono just kind of came up and did their thing.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I'm standing there watching this dude singing this song like he wrote it. And Prince is telling him the words, and he's singing it like he knows it.
That's a skill.
Like day, stormy night, and he's doing his thing, man, and he's killing it. And so that always impressed me when artists would come in like that, like Kanye and like some of the other ones, and then just do their thing, man, and don't miss a beat. They're not like I'm afraid. It's like, this dude was like, put me in, coach.
That's
and
right.
I'm coming with the heat, and he came in and came with the heat,
Amazing. Train wreck question we often ask. So is there a memorable time on stage, no matter what band it's with, where you've had an absolute meltdown with your gear or something's gone terribly wrong?
Absolutely. When you've done this as long as I have, man, I have meltdowns with Prince. I have a couple of epic meltdowns that I will share. And one was, I was playing for this wonderful group called Quadrant. And young lady, she's I think from Denmark. And it's a dope band. It's like 2014 after I had left Prince. And I got the call at the last minute. I don't read music, and so everything I do, I have to go and really study the music. But I got this call. Their keyboard player couldn't do this tour. She's getting ready to go and open for this guy, Mayor Hawthorne, who's a great artist here, I think out of Michigan. Mayor Hawthorne's dope. He's got a kind of throwback sound. But this girl's dope. She's got a dope sound. She's got a dope band. I love her music. As I was learning this music, there was one song. Man, I'm cramming, bro. I got 3 days to get this whole show together. I've been in this position before. It's tough shit. You stay up all night. You just do it. And I mean, I stayed up to the point like back in my days with Prince, 2-3 days with no sleep and just trying to get it. And we get to the show at the House of Blues in San Diego, first show. And man, it's crazy when you're learning somebody's record that you don't know their music. And everything starts, then titles and everything starts running together. And you're trying to think, what is the next song? I'm reading the title, but I don't know how it goes. And then the first drum beat or the first thing that happens, is like, oh, yeah, that's it. And then everything pops in. On this particular song, it was a cover, a Lauryn Hill cover. And it's just me by myself. And I completely forget the chord changes. And I'm playing the wrong thing. And it's a nightmare, man, because I'm like, what in the hell? What are those chords? And I'm making it up. And we had to literally stop and just go to a different song that had never happened before. And she was looking at me like, what are you playing? What is that? And I'm I'm trying to think of what is that second chord? What? And it was not right, man. And it was just a disaster as far as that goes. We just went to another song, but for me, that was the worst thing that could happen. It's it was all on me. It's the lights are on you. You're by yourself and you choke and die. And it was the worst.
Yeah.
The longest ride back to LA that I've ever from San Diego. I've ever had. The 2 hours I've ever had. They were all kind. Hey man, you're under a lot of stress, but I was just yeah, I suck. And I went that night after that show because we had to play at the Palladium in LA the next day. It was late when I got in. I stayed up all night. I set my gear up back into place and
Wow.
stayed up all night and went over everything again because, it was a big night. All of her record label was going to be at the Palladium. You know, um, I actually met one of my heroes was there, Sylvia Rome. Was
Oh,
a
yeah.
gigantic record label executive from Michael Jackson all the way back in the day. And so we had to come with it, man. After the gig, I went set up and stayed up all night to make sure that didn't happen again at the Palladium or anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that was that one. And for Prince, I had a few, but the one that stands out the most was we were in, I think, DC, man, and not that the location makes any difference, but we were there and we were doing Prince was notoriously famous for, like, once we learned something, we get in sound check and he would decide we're going to learn a new song or we're going to change the one we already know to some other stuff. Now you've learned it this way, you've practiced it this way, and now today in sound check, Maurice, I'm going to give you a new part. And I want you to play this thing up here. And I'm like thinking, okay, shit, how am I going to do this? I got these parts. I already got a lot of parts. And I'm like, and now he's going to give me a new line and whatever it is. And I'm like, oh my God, man. Like, okay. And you don't have time. You got to play it and you got to play the thing, tonight. So we were doing this song 3 Chains Ago, and it's got these big samples in it. Forever, forever, and these effects and stuff. And so that's all samples on the low end of my keyboard. That's where that business happens. The vocal samples and stuff are down here. On the top end is where all my key stuff is. So I'm thinking ahead because it's like, okay, we got this new part. Here we are in the show. I'm waiting for this new part. I'm waiting because here we go. I got to hit this because he gave me this new thing and I'm trying to memorize it from rehearsal a few hours ago. I get the part, whatever it is, and then I forget I have the other part down on the other end. So I go, and it was like, I just hit. It was Prince's arms out like Diana Ross. All of these samples just get fired that had nothing to do with where we were. So we get to DC the next day, and it's a dark. We're on the stage. Prince isn't there yet. He gets there, and you hear his microphone, and I don't see him anywhere. I can't see him. I just hear like the voice of God going, Maurice, what happened yesterday? What happened? And he said, I just wanted to go home. And I said, yeah, Prince, I was concentrating so hard on the new part that he said, yeah, I wanted to go home. He said, don't ever do that again. Yeah. Don't do that again, please. It's better to leave it out than to do that, what you did, to search for the sample and play 5 different things that were wrong. So, yeah, that's
a great one.
That was pretty disastrous. And sometimes you have to have an epic failure like that in order to say, okay, I never want to have that happen again either.
That's right.
I have to make sure that I am familiar where everything is, because I had to memorize where every sample position was on every song. Some would be vocal samples, some would be guitar samples, some would be this. I double his parts or I double whatever. And every song had 15, 20, 30 samples on it. And, like he did on David Letterman one time, he just decided he wanted to cut out a part of the song. We had rehearsed it this way, and he decided he didn't want to shake David Letterman's hand. He said, I don't want to shake his hand, so can you load in the gun sample? Because I had a gunshot. He said, load that in, and we're going to cut the second verse, go straight to the bridge. No mistakes.
Wow.
While we're standing at the door getting ready to go do the thing.
Yeah.
We've rehearsed it all week, and now he just changed it on the spot and said, when I do this, you can shoot the shot. I'm going to go like this, and you hit the sample. And then he said, no mistakes. And I'm sitting there and I know I got to cut out this many samples off my keyboard, hop from this samples, skip this and go right to the bridge samples. And I'm just sitting there looking at my keyboard because now I'm nervous because he told you no mistakes.
No mistakes.
Of course, I don't want to make a mistake anyway. You don't have to tell me that,
That's right.
but now I'm thinking about it. And so the worst thing you can do is get inside of your head when you just play and put your hands, everything. And so I'm playing and I'm looking and I'm trying to think, where did those next group of samples start? And I'm playing, where did they start? But I still got to keep myself in the game here. But I'm thinking, and the grace of God, I just was like, here goes, whammo, and I hit the right thing, and it was
amazing. No, I think they're definitely two of the best train wrecks I've ever heard, Maurice. Brilliant stories. Now, I've got two really quick viewer questions. One, Frank from Niagara Falls, New York State. I'm not sure whether you've had to do this, but have you ever had to develop some really hot brass sounds on keyboard, and what, if any, tips would you pass on how to create a great brass sound outside of some great samples?
Yeah, the key is, one of the things is, when I picked the keyboards that I use now, Yamaha is when it came to acoustic sounds. I mean, Prince told me about when I came back and after 2004, 2005, when I came back, Prince was telling me about, have you heard the flute sound and the motif? And he named the keyboard by name, which a lot of times if it wasn't the old school stuff, he didn't care what it was. And I just said, what? I said, what? You know the name of the keyboard? Like, bro, and Yamaha did acoustic stuff extraordinarily well, like the flutes and the brass.
Yeah.
Get the acoustic guitar stuff, like the rock guitar stuff. I would double Prince on like the crunchy stuff. And so, first of all, I'd start with what keyboard is the one that would emulate that. And then what you do is, once you get one that has a good swell brass sound or a good, the key is to mix, for me, was to mix that brass with the synth. And then just then have those things, because what Prince told me about the reason why his sound came to be what it was in the 80s, he said, Maurice, everybody had horn sections in their bands in the 70s, the Earth, Wind, Fire, Ohio Players. That was the thing. He said, I wanted to have horn parts without the horns. So when you hear me on the keyboard going, he said, I'm articulating the way a horn section would articulate it, but I'm using a different sound. He said, because nothing sounds cheesier than me trying to play horns, sample horn parts on a keyboard. He said, use something else. So what I would take is I take that brass because they cut, and then I put the synth underneath from what his early stages was about. And I would blend those two sounds. And the other thing that makes horns believable is the fact that you approach them more staccato. If you make the notes shorter, it lessens the cheesy amount for them, because most of the amateurs, what you'll do is you'll just play the whole thing, and it sounds like keyboard horns. One of the greatest compliments I ever got was from Maurice White, Earth, Wind, and Fire. He got a hold of my demo of this kid, Smokey Norfolk, who's a big gospel artist now. Smokey's huge, and Smokey is from my hometown. And I worked with Smokey when he was 12. Maurice White somehow got this demo that I did with Smokey and called me and just was like, I thought it was a prank. And it was like, hey, Maurice? And I'm like, yeah, who's this? He said, it's Maurice White. I'm like, no, for real, who is this? Like, for real, who is this? And he said, like, it's Maurice White. And he said, I got a demo here that's got this kid Smokey, and I'm inquiring. I said, oh my God, like freaking Maurice White. And he asked me, he said, man, he said, like, who did the sax on this one? We had a song on it that had sax. Now this is a testament to Roland, and I love Roland equipment and how great this sample was. It was a saxophone sample from a Roland synth. And he said, I said, oh no, that's me. I just played that. And he said, let me tell you something. This is Maurice White, bro. He said, let me tell you something. Nobody tricks me with a horn patch. He said, nobody tricks me with a horn patch. He said, that's one of the best saxophone solos on a keyboard I've ever heard. And he said, kudos to you. Because he said, most cats don't articulate it, the playable range, and articulate it like a horn player would. And he said, that's the best fool me with a horn sample I've ever heard. You know, just the notes you chose. And for me, man, for Maurice White with the Phoenix horn,
Yeah.
to tell you that, bro, you don't
Yeah.
get no better than that. I was like,
No. No, agreed.
I was floored, man, because
Yeah.
that was an incredible compliment. And I still have that song. It's a crazy thing, but and I went back and listened to it, and I was like, you know what? That wasn't bad. It's just only in spots. And it was on a 4-track. It was a 4-track
Wow.
demo, man. It wasn't like it was in a studio and somebody mixed it. I mixed it myself, but it was it just this, and you just don't try to do too much.
Yeah.
And then just articulate it like a horn player would articulate it. And that's the other thing that makes it more convincing.
No, great tips. Thank you. And the last one, I'll only stick to two questions from viewers. One, it's more of a comment from Walter from Guatemala City, Guatemala. He wanted to mention that he still refers to a masterclass you did for Keyboard Magazine way back in the day. I'm not sure when that was, Maurice. Would that have been the 90s?
Oh, yeah, I think so. It's funny. I got that Keyboard Magazine is out on my table out there. But anyway, yeah, I know what he's referring to.
Yeah, no, great. And the dreaded Desert Island Discs question, Maurice, 5 albums. If you have to pick 5 albums that you took to a desert island, what would they be?
One would be A Sign of the Times.
Yeah.
That would be one. Songs in the Key of Life.
Yeah.
That would be one. This is hard because there's so many incredible records that I love. That's like this incredible. A lot of it Stevie and Prince. Inner Visions is like another one that's for me. That's like banana sandwiches, man. Like Talking Book and Inner Visions is like.
Yeah.
I remember George Duke saying that they were like life changing for him. That they had. That was incredible. Parade.
Yeah.
Was a wonderful record for me. I thought what Prince did with like the songs in Parade was like songs from Under the Cherry Moon.
Yeah, amazing.
Was amazing. That was a great record. Bob James and David Sanborn. Double Vision.
Great pick.
Is I love Bob James. I mean, it's like, just like, and David Sanborn is like one of my favorite horn players. I mean, like that record was like, everything on that record was killing. Either Rays or I think Rays was like one of my favorite Earth, Wind and Fire records. I mean, they had so many big songs back in the day, but Rays was just like, man, just so many things that like synth bass. Larry Dunn was like one of my favorite keyboard players. That's just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
There's stuff that's like on the jazzier side, and like, stuff like Herbie. Like Herbie had some stuff that was honest to me. Which Maiden Voyage was on, and like Return to Forever, Chick Corea, like that stuff was like
amazing. Yeah.
Lenny White's a friend of mine now, and for him, like when you talk about Al Demiola and all of those guys, but also on the other side, man, growing up, one of my favorite things was like Steely Dan, man.
Yeah.
Donald Fagen, and Asia was like Asia was like bananas to me. But if I had to pick 5, like I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna play it on repeat.
Yeah.
Those records I could listen to just on repeat, man. And I played on some great stuff, man. With my time with Prince, but I just think, Sign of the Times was just like that was his songs in the Key of Life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prince's version of that, man.
No, absolutely. Great picks. And I mean, speaking of great picks, I think everyone you've worked with has made a great pick in working with you. Can't thank you enough for taking the time, Maurice. It's been an honour and a privilege, and we look forward to what's yet to come. And I think there's a lot yet to come, but cannot thank you enough. For our viewers, Maurice has stayed up. We're coming up to 3 a.m. So that's dedication, and it's much appreciated. That's right. And there we have it. I honestly hope you enjoyed that as much as you can tell I enjoyed listening to Maurice talk. what a guy, what a player, incredibly humble like a lot of our guests, well, pretty much all of our guests actually. Just an absolute honour to have him on the show, and I said I hope you did enjoy that. We are looking forward to what comes next with Maurice, and it feels like there's a lot more. So, yeah, a huge thanks to Maurice for his time at what was a very uncivilised hour for him. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks, but before we go, just wanted to give a shout out to our gold and silver sponsors, the musicplayer.com forums, proud member since 2000 and still going strong. If you like talking keyboards and artists and everything in between, definitely check out the musicplayer.com forums and I'll see you on there. We also, big shout out to Midnight Mastering, Mike and the team at Midnight Mastering. If you're creating your own work and want to get it up on the streaming services, you do need someone that does a great job of mixing and mastering. Mike is the guy. So check out midnightmastering.com. Cannot recommend Mike enough. I proudly use him for all my highly award-winning work. And then also Tammy from Tammy's Musical Stew. Thank you as always, Tammy. You've been a long-term supporter and it's hugely appreciated. And last but not least, Brother Paul Brown from the Waterboys. Brother Paul's support is also long-standing and hugely appreciated. So thank you all to our gold and silver supporters. As I said, we'll be back in a week or two, hopefully with Paul, after he's completed his current musical journey. And in the meantime, keep on playing.